Hello, thank you. I'm Niklas. I design products and materials from waste, and I'm going to show some ideas being realized here. So we upcycle the built environment, um, and yeah, design the world of tomorrow with the waste of today. And just shortly, what makes us different as a company is that we have a nexus organization. We are architects, but we also develop these products, and we have a consultancy company within circular economy. So we try to as some has stated before, tell the investors and the developers how to uh, put in the circular economy into their products and projects. Um, yeah, that was what I just said, actually. So what we do is we work with circular economy. We've seen that before. So there's nothing new in circular economy. I think that's the main thing to understand, is that this is an old thing. This is just something that changed during the last 100 years. Before that, we actually did work with circular economy. We just didn't call it that. They built houses to disassemble and sell for sell on the parts that you didn't need anymore when you either grew as a family or you became smaller or died or whatever. Um, so what have we done? We have made this row house project with 20 row houses called Upcycle Studios. We call it the first circular homes in the world. There might be others out there, but at least it's ambitious. The plot is quite narrow and small, so we were allowed to make some different housings, different kind of row houses. But the main thing is that the structure in this building is made out of what we call upcycle concrete. That means that the aggregate that you use in new concrete is from demolished concrete from the metro building in Copenhagen, and the housing units are in Copenhagen. So we try to source as locally as possible. Thereby, we actually take 45% of what would have been new from gravel pits and stuff like that, new fillings, those of 16 millimeters, and replace that with something that was already excavated. And in order to make this happen, because one thing is the idea, another thing is to have someone do it, we had to make our own local concrete factory on site. That was why we actually invented Linear Up, our upcycle product department, was because we had all these ideas, but we just met obstacles and obstacles and obstacles, and then we thought, let's just do it ourselves, and then we created the company to do it. Another thing we did was that we took windows that are being taken out of buildings because of energy renovations. These windows we took out from Aalborg in Denmark, from a building, and the windows was from 1999. They're less than 20 years when we took them, and they are already 2-layer thermo-insulated windows. But because they needed to make an energy renovation with 3-layer windows, we took them and made a new window. This is not as simple as it sounds. We of course went through a bigger process of testing and crash testing and everything. The interesting thing is that these windows are 20 years old, but when we took them out for crash testing, there's some dry balls in the frame of windows. I don't know how much you know about windows, but now I know a lot about windows at least. Well, the testing shows that the window has actually only used, if so to say, 10 to 12 years of its actual 20 years. So the windows are in better shape than they should actually be. And what was actually in worse condition was the frame, because of the wood. The wood they use in window frames today are of not as good quality as it was like 100 years ago. But we teamed up with a company of how to make windows, and then we made a coupled frame with 2 by 2 layers. So we actually are up on 4 layers, and have a very high insulated window with some architecture to it. So it's also always a matter of taste, but we like it. There's 2 sides of it, and we wanted to tell that story with all these different sizes put together. So the outside is on with a black frame, and the inside is with natural color, wood color. We also had wood from a luxury wood flooring company in Denmark called Dinesen. They deliver so high quality that they have a lot of waste. And then we said to them, that's a shame with all that waste. And they said, yes, but what should we do with it? Because now we just burn it. So we said, let's put it into a building instead, in more odd shapes and odd sizes, because they're used to selling 15-meter long wood planks. We said, let's use that. Yeah, okay. I'm rushing through this because I have so much to say. We also did what we call the resource rows. This is a project where we wanted to reuse bricks, and we've seen this before with how to reuse bricks. But what we saw and what we found out was that buildings from around the 60s, they started to put cement into the mortar between the bricks. This means that you cannot take the bricks apart because the mortar is actually stronger than the brick. Therefore, all of these buildings, schools, factories, stuff like that, from the 60s and to up to today, they are being crushed because there's no way to reuse it. We thought that's a shame, so we invented a way to cut them out. It's not like it's rocket science, but again, we are at a place in history where no one believes you can do it because they don't want to take the risk. That's why we invented linear up to just do it, because it's, as I say, it's not rocket science. You can see here on the next slide, this is how we transported them. These are normal Euro pallets. We just put up some planks, and then we could transport 4 elements of 1 square meter at a time on one pallet. And you know, one truck can have 32 pallets, or you don't know, but now you know, 32 pallets on one normal truck. So in that way, we could actually transport 4 by 32 square meters of, yeah. So just there's a lot of things you realize when you make these things. And then we had to again collaborate with a manufacturer of concrete elements where we could put these into the facade. A highly satisfying job, I would say, when you have an idea and you actually come to a point where they build with it. And this is the project. It's actually a bit further now. We are also on this project using reclaimed wood that's been treated with this shuguban on all the fillings over the windows and on the terrace. And we also use wood that's been used to transport big concrete elements, you know, big chunks of wood that the municipality of Copenhagen, they called us and they said, we have 900 tons of wood that we've been using to transport the elements to the metro building. Do you know how to use them? And we thought about it for a week, and we called them back and said, yes, we want it. And then they had already thrown out to waste 600 tons. So there was only 300 tons left. Still a lot of wood, but just to say how quickly it goes in this business is that they keep throwing out. So just final note, because I can't make all of what I have to say, but we investigated that in this process of how to remake all these things, we found out that there's something wrong with the value chain. This is what we need to change in the building sector, the way that we look at how we develop buildings. In a traditional value chain, you know, a developer would look at a building and they demolish it, and then they say to the architect, now you have a raw site to build on. Isn't it fantastic? And as an architect, we should say, no, that's horrible. You just took down everything on this site that we could actually use for something. So we tried to show the new value chain where we put the designer and the demolisher. It's very important to understand that the demolisher is a very important part of this in the beginning of this planning of the next building, because then we know how to disassemble the old building and reuse it into a new building. And for that, we have found a way to help our developers. We have made a resource mapping. It's, you know, normally you always have to do a mapping of all the toxins in a building. So now we just made a resource mapping instead. It's what you want to do with new buildings. We just do it with old buildings. And this way we show the developer, we show the demolisher, we show the architect, all that's of value in this building, and also that's of no value at all, but just a way to show that this is what we have to work with. And then you have a folder that everybody can use. Sorry. Thank you.